Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another NFL video. Today we'll be going over the AFC West record prediction. Big time division with big time quarterbacks. Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. Russell Wilson had a horrible year last year. Let's see if he could turn it around. And then you got the Raiders with the defensive ends. The guys that are going to be attacking the quarterback. Crosby, Chandler Jones, and then Wilson, who they just drafted. All right, before I get into this record prediction, I want to talk about Jim Brown. He passed away about like a week ago, so I am a little late about it, but I think it's right to talk about it now since I am, talking about the NFL. And Jim Brown, left a big time mark in the NFL. He was obviously a big time running back, one of the best to ever do it. But he did a lot of stuff off the field, man. He was an actor. He was an activist, as you can see in that picture. That iconic Bill Russ, Muhammad Ali, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Big time. Just an incredible image, with all those incredible people in there. And then Jim Brown. And it's crazy, too, because I legitimately, watched his NFL films. I think that's what they call it, from the NFL Network, where it just shows his whole career, his life, and all that stuff. I watched that thing 2 months ago, and it's just sad to see a legend like Jim Brown leave, but it's part of life. But my condolences to his family, and we will always remember Jim Brown, not only for the player he was in the NFL, because he was an incredible one, but for what he did off the field, because he was more than just football. Boom. All right, so now to the Broncos. The Broncos did a little bit in the offseason. They got, protection for Russell Wilson because his whole career, Russell Wilson has been under attack. He's led the league in sacks every season. So the Broncos GM, and I'm pretty sure Sean Payton were like, let's get this guy protection. They got the right tackle from the 49ers, who's really good. They also got a guard, and I think Ben Powers, I want to say. Oh, no, the Panthers have Ben Powers. So they have a guard and the right tackle from the 49ers that they added in free agency, and they got a little bit of weapons, a little bit of role players in the drafts. Riley Moss, Mims, and one other person. Forgetting their names, but I apologize. And they have a decent schedule. Obviously, the division they're playing against is really good, so they're going to have a tough season every year because of their division. So let's get right into the record breakdown right here. I have them losing to the Raiders the first game. I think the Raiders are going to somehow, some way, going to beat the Broncos that first game. The Broncos have a whole new training staff, so it's going to be tough for the offense to adjust. And then I have them beating the Commanders. Commanders have a rookie quarterback. Dolphins are a really good team. So I have them losing to the Jets, losing to the Chiefs in Kansas City, beating the Packers. And then that Chiefs-Broncos game, the Broncos play the Chiefs hard every single game. So that first game is going to be really close. But I believe this mid-season game is going to be very important for the draft. This midseason game is going to be very important for the Chiefs and Broncos because, again, their division is very, very competitive. So every divisional game matters. But I feel like the Broncos midseason are going to start putting it together with their whole new training staff and whole new offensive scheme with Russell Wilson and all that stuff. I think they're going to start putting it together. That Chiefs game is going to show us what they got right there. I have them losing to the Bills, though. That Vikings game is going to be really good. It's going to be Justin Jefferson versus Surtain. Surtain's one of the top corners in the league. If not, he's the best corner in the league. I'm going to have my rankings, my position rankings closer to the season. This would be probably week 1 of preseason is when I'm going to do my rankings and positions. And then I have them winning against the Browns, against the Texans. The Chargers games, both Chargers games are going to be very important for the Chargers and Broncos because I believe whoever wins those games are gonna make playoffs, or it's gonna it's for the seeding, for the playoffs. And then having beaten the Lions, the Patriots, Chargers game, big one right there, and then beating the Raiders for the last game of the season. I have them going 12-5, so I haven't beaten the Chiefs and Denver. That midseason game, I think it's gonna be a game changer for the Broncos. I believe they're gonna show everybody that they're different, that Sean Payton's gonna do his thing with Russell Wilson, and I believe they're gonna win that game right there. And then I have the Broncos beating the Chargers, both Chargers games. I honestly think the Chargers are gonna win the one at home in LA, but just for entertainment purposes and for the this is possible reason, 12-5. I have them taking both games, so the Broncos go 12-5. That's my prediction. And my 4 key games for the Broncos is that Jets game early in the season. The Jets should be pretty nice early in the season, and then the Broncos, early in the season should be a little weaker, but it should be a pretty good one right there. Russell Wilson versus Aaron Rodgers again, the Green Bay Packers, Seattle days, so good game right there. And Broncos versus Bills. The Bills game, I think it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be a shootout between Russell Wilson and Josh Allen. And then Vikings-Broncos game, Surtain, Justin Jefferson. And then Chargers-Broncos, that last game. I think it's the last divisional. Oh, no, never mind. The Chargers-Broncos game is very important later in the season for the playoff picture. So it's going to be very entertaining. The Chargers may have to win that game to make playoffs, or the Broncos may have to win that game to make playoffs. So this will be a really fun game right there. And then the Chiefs, man. The Chiefs have been ruling over the AFC for the past 5 years. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have been unstoppable. And they've been in the AFC Championship for a while. And they added a couple of weapons. They added basically what they needed. They added edge. They added receivers. They added, linemen. So they added things. They added positions that they needed. So let's get right into their record. So I have them going 6-0 early in the season. That Chargers game, Herbert and Mahomes always put up a show. So it's going to be a fun one to watch right there. And then Broncos-Chiefs game I talked about earlier. Dolphins-Chiefs. I have the Dolphins taking that one. Dolphins, Jalen Ramsey, Hayward. That defense is really, really good. And then obviously Tua's a big question. And health for the Dolphins team is a big question because they have a lot of guys that get injured on that roster. So if the Dolphins are fully healthy, I believe they could beat the Chiefs. But if they're not healthy, the Chiefs are obviously going to win that one. And then the Eagles-Chiefs game, it's a rematch of the Super Bowl. It's going to be a fun one to watch Sunday night. It's going to be a very, very competitive game. And then I have them winning all the way into December 31st. That's a Bengals game. That Bengals game is going to be very, very good. Joe Burrow's 3-1 against Mahomes. He lost last year in the playoffs in in the AFC Championship round where Mahomes had to make a game-winning drive. And they got a penalty, and they were able to make a field goal. What's that? And then I have the Chiefs winning against the Chargers, the last game of the season. I believe no matter what the scenario is, like if the Chiefs have to win this game to not make playoffs, but to win the division, I believe the Chiefs will do that. Or if the Chargers need to win the game to make playoffs, I think the Chiefs will beat them and kick them out of the playoffs. And then I had the Chiefs going 12-5, so I have them going on a losing streak. I have the Chargers beating the Chiefs in Kansas City, a very hard thing to do, but I think the Chargers at that moment I think the Chargers are gonna be healthy. Herbert, Joey Bosa, Derwin James. I think they're gonna play a very, very great game and beat the Chiefs. Then, like I said, the Broncos, I think, are going to surprise everybody, and they're going to beat the Chiefs in Denver mid-season. Love that. Dolphins beating the Chiefs. And then I think the Eagles are going to beat the Chiefs. I think the Eagles are going to avenge that loss in the Super Bowl in the Sunday night game against the Chiefs. And then I have the Bengals beating the Chiefs. Joe Burrow going 4-1 against Mahomes. And then my top games for the Chiefs, I have the Chargers game. I think that's a big one over there in Kansas City. The Dolphins game, very huge. And then obviously the rematch of the Super Bowl. And then Josh Allen versus Mahomes, always a fun one to watch. So the Raiders, man, obviously they're not that good as they were last year. Jimmy G, did they get offensive help? I don't think they did. They didn't get in the corners. They got Wilson in the draft. They got Mayer in the draft as well. So those are pretty good picks right there. And then what did they do in free agency? They got Jacoby Meyer. They gave him the bag. And that's really it, I believe, for the Raiders. Oh, Tom Brady's buying a portion of the Raiders. So that's cool as well. He's trying to do Michael Jordan things where Michael Jordan, bought a franchise in the Charlotte Hornets. So now he's trying to take the Las Vegas Raiders. And a lot of L's for the Raiders right here. The Raiders, I think it's very unfortunate for the Raiders, because obviously they're in a division where the Chargers, the Chiefs, and Denver Broncos are big-time competing AFC. So I have the Raiders going 4-13, beating the Broncos, beating the Steelers, Packers, Patriots. Obviously, Jimmy G is going to be healthy early in the season. He may have, some impact onto those games, and maybe the media will be talking about, oh, if Jimmy G was healthy, the Raiders will win more games, But I think if Jimmy G is healthy, they will still win probably like 2 more games, if anything, but that's about it, They're not going to make playoffs. I think the AFC is too stacked for a team like the Raiders right now. But the Raiders should be better soon, Need a couple more pieces. And then my key games for the Raiders, the Steelers game, I think that was going to be a very entertaining game. Both franchises are big as well. Packers-Raiders game, they go back a long, long time ago. Jets-Raiders, I think the Raiders could beat the Jets. Can the edge pressure get to Aaron Rodgers? We'll see. And then that Colts game, we'll probably see the rookie quarterback for the Raiders against Anthony Richardson. So, yeah. And then for the Chargers, they're the last team of this. And then for the Chargers, they got Johnston in the draft. Big-time receiver. Got some special teams guys as well. And free agency, I think they just re-signed some of their guys. I think that's all they did. So they're running it back with their guys, and they got Johnston in the draft. They have an easier schedule than the Chiefs because they don't play against the Eagles. They don't play against the Bengals. So they have a slightly easier schedule than the Chiefs. So because of that, they have a chance to take in the division. So let's get right into the record. I have them losing against the Dolphins first game. That's a big-time game. Bunch of star power all over that field. So it'll be a fun one to watch. First week. Can't wait to watch that one. And then going on a little 3-game win streak. And then we got a Cowboys game, a revenge game for Moore, the offensive coordinator for the Chargers now. He was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, but he kind of got scapegoated, saying that it was his fault or just too much chef in the kitchen. And that's why the Cowboys' offense was not that great, And then obviously the Chargers-Chiefs game, big-time game right there. Can the Chargers beat the Chiefs in Kansas City? And then we got the Cardinals game win streak, and then losing to the Broncos, beating the Raiders, losing to the Bills, and then that Chargers-Broncos game, the last game against the Broncos. It's gonna be a big-time game for both franchises right there, and then losing to the Chiefs for the last game of the season. I have the Chargers going 12-5. I have them beating the Cowboys, beating the Chiefs, loses the Broncos both games. So that's 3 teams in the AFC West that have 12-5. So it's gonna come down to who's beat divisional opponents, or if it still tied, it'll come down to points. So it's gonna be very, very close for all the teams in the West. My 4 key games for the Chargers is that first game, Dolphins game, the Chargers game, a revenge game, and the Bills Chargers game, Josh Allen versus Herbert, and then Mahomes versus So Mahomes versus Herbert, that's the last game of the season. Again, that might be a big time game for both Chiefs and Chargers. It might be, if the Chiefs win this one, they kick the Chargers out of the playoffs, or if the Chargers win it, they barely make playoffs. Or maybe the Chiefs barely miss playoffs if they lose this one. You never know. And that's it, man. That's it for the AFC West. I have 3 teams going 12-5. Again, I don't think the Broncos are going to beat the Chargers 2 times this season, but you never know because the Broncos, in my opinion, are going to be really good later in the season with Sean Payne and Russell Wilson. So I think that's going to be the reason why it'll be really competitive back later in the season. Andy Reid and the Chiefs, I thought the Chiefs will legitimately run away with the division like always. But looking at the schedule, man, they have a tough stretch, mid-season, playing against the Chargers, the Broncos, the Dolphins, the Eagles. Those are all very, very tough teams right there. And then they play against the Bengals later in the season, so it's like that schedule's not favoring the Chiefs at all. Obviously, the Dolphins game could be an easy win for the no, I can't say easy win, but it could be a win for the Chiefs if the Dolphins are hurt because they have a lot of guys that have injury concerns. And then the Broncos game, they always beat the Broncos, but I'm predicting the Broncos will beat the Chiefs this time mid-season in Denver. So, yeah. So I hope you all enjoy, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.